Alright, YouTube. The custom boombox is finished. And I put a voltage meter on the back. There's a funny story about that. The wiring for that, and I'll get to that. So here it is. This is the car stereo I used. I put in a PSU. And there are my speakers. I'm just kidding, there's no PSU. It's actually, believe it or not, a lapel. It's a power amplifier designed to look like a car stereo, which is pretty neat, and it fits in there perfectly. Well, of course it does, and cut the hole out to its exact dimension, so of course it fits perfectly. It better fit perfectly. So, there's the speakers there. And if we look down in here, we got a subwoofer. And then go down to the other side, and I got another subwoofer. I don't know if the video just glitched a little bit there, because I got this phone close to a magnet, and God knows Androids don't like magnets. So, yeah. There's my battery. It's a 26 amp hour. It doesn't need to be nearly that powerful, but I'm going to put 110 outlets on it, like I said. Now, that funny story about the voltage meter. I actually wired the voltage meter up to a switch, so I could turn it on and off, and not have it running all the time. And I wired it up, and I wired it up to the battery. I flicked the switch, the voltage meter came on. I'm like, yes, it works. I didn't think it was going to work until the wires that were going from the battery to the voltage meter went up in smoke. Like, really, really, really bad smoke. Like, it wasn't just a little pff, it was like pff. It filled the whole garage up with smoke, and I'm like, oh shit. And so I'm like, oh, what do? I mean, I can't grab them. They're really hot. It's molten rubber, and there's electricity going through them, so a lot of dangerous things can happen there. So, yep, I did grab it, and I got some burns. But whatever, as long as my battery's fine. Split my knuckles too. So yeah, that's the story of that. Fucking focus. Okay. So this thing does have a radio on it, USB and a SD, and the equalizer is pretty cool. You just push it and you can turn up the bass and turn up the treble, and then it's also got presets for equalizer for like jazz, pop, rock, classical, whatever you like is the equalizer. And it does have a radio, which I already said that, which is pretty neat. It's got a nice radio, and it works great out here. We pick up 6 channels, which, I mean, we're lucky to even get one out here, so radio reception's pretty good for this thing. And you push scan on there, and then it scans through all of the channels, and then once it finds a channel, it'll tell you what channel it's labeling as. So if you hit scan and it goes through a bunch of channels, and then it stops at a channel that's coming in, it'll say channel 1. And then it'll find the next channel, channel 2. Next channel, channel 3. Next channel, channel 4, etc., etc., etc. So that's pretty neat. So you don't have to flip through each channel individually. You can just push a button and it does it for you. Yeah, it's all pretty neat. I'm not gonna make this thing fully solar. The solar panel is just to help keep the battery charged if I ever take it to the beach. But I mean, I haven't charged this battery once since I got it, and I'm still at, well, it dropped one, but I'm still at 12.8, 12.7 volts, and I've run this thing for equivalency of about 5 hours now. So in 5 hours, my voltage has only dropped 0.3. So it's almost like I'm never going to need to charge it. One problem is, we're going to put handles on it because this thing is heavy as hell. I mean, it is very heavy. You know, not just anybody can pick this thing up. It weighs like 60 pounds. Wait. I'm not going to do the math. I'm just going to guess and say it's between 45 and 60 pounds. So, yeah, and I will do a sound test. I mean, it's not like you can tell, but, I mean, you know, you're going to want to know that I'm not bullshitting you. So yeah, no copyright infringement intended. So it works, and I got two suds in there. They're both facing each other. No, they do not cancel each other out because one of them is wired out of phase. And this thing's actually, this is pretty cool. It's not even screwed in there, but I mean, I can't get the damn thing out. The only thing that's holding it in there is this little platform it's sitting on. It's not bolted in or anything. And it's got this little cover that pops on and off, but it's in there pretty good, you know. It's not coming out for anything. We put some hinges on it. Now, one thing we did do is you'll see it's open a little bit there, but we did that on purpose. If you look right in between that layer of plywood, there's a piece of focus. There's a little piece of cardboard, and we lifted this up so this would purposely sit up a little more, so we could have the top cracked a little bit. So if you wanted to run a cord out of there, it wouldn't look abnormal. Well, it would, but that's not the reason why. It's also kind of like a reflex port, because I mean, we don't need to put in a reflex port because the box is plenty big enough, but it really does affect the sound if it's not cracked. So it sounds the best like this. Excuse me. Now this amp is a great amp. It's 25 watts per channel at 8 ohms. So if you're using all 4 channels, you'd have 100 watts at 8 ohms, which could power that 8-inch subwoofer over there. I mean 10-inch. That's 100 watts. So yeah, and this is a Lapai, and Lapai's, I mean, it is cheap in Chinese. Oh, I mean, in fact, the instructions are in Mandarin, and yeah, it's something else. Another thing they did cheaply, I mean, this is the only other thing that was done kind of cheaply, is this little RCA guy here is the antenna, but it's literally just an RCA cable they cut in half and said, fuck you, there's the antenna. But other than those two things, it's very well built. It doesn't feel, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't look that cheap. It looks pretty, I mean, if I hadn't showed you the inside, you'd totally believe it was a car stereo and I put a PSU in there. Although, I mean, I got a battery in there, obviously, so would need a PSU, but that's the common thing to use. So this video is going on 8 minutes, so I'm going to cut it here.